So Marx talked a lot about how we're being exploited as workers, but it's actually kind of worse than that if you think about it. So it's the 21st century, everything is being automated and commodified. Great if you own stuff, if you don't, boo. So obviously we're all being exploited as workers. Businesses can't make profit unless they get more out of you than what you're putting in, because if you took out as much as you put in, then there would be nothing for the people who own the business to take profit from you, because you would just get all the money that you were earning for the business. There we go. Marxism summed up in a paragraph by me. But it's worse than that, because we're not just being exploited as workers, we're also being exploited as consumers. If things were only worth the value that we paid for them, like in a monetary sense, then companies would only ever be able to break even, and that would be it. And that would be if they sold every single one of their products. So there's that, but then there's a few other ways. So I guess already I've kind of covered the way that we're being exploited through work and through consumption, but the thing is that being exploited through consumption is even worse than that, because when do you consume? You consume when you're not working, when you're resting, or when you're taking some leisure time. You're either being advertised to or you have to pay money. That's the case for anything that is either leisure or resting. Basically the only time you're not being advertised to is when you're asleep, unless you pay for a YouTube Premium subscription, or if you just use ad blocker. Or if, like me, you just piggyback off of someone else's YouTube Premium account. You can set up family settings, so if you know someone who's got one, you might be able to get them to set you up as a family member, which means that you get all the perks of YouTube Premium without actually having to pay for it yourself. So let's stick with working for a second. So I believe that work is something that is very important for the human spirit. If we're not doing something regular that is productive and working towards an end goal, even if the work itself is unpleasant, that's just something that we need, because if all you do is play around and sleep, rest, then you tend to wind up falling into an existential crisis. Believe me, I've done it. But the whole problem with the idea of getting a job, and in fact the commodification of work, is that we're kind of robbed of that satisfaction. And this is sort of what worker alienation is about. We're alienated from our work. We don't actually get the spiritual benefits from working, because we're not working for our own ends. We're working so someone else can make some shitty product that they can sell to people like us to make a profit. It's just shit. This is just so yeah, as you can tell, this is a super quick crash course in Marxism, because I've got a point I'm getting to. So it means that we don't get satisfying work. We don't get the satisfaction of having worked in a way that is actually productive. We're just doing it in ways that earn money for someone else. Because this is the core way that our system functions, so that, value can go to people who own businesses, that's the whole thing is set up like that. Money only trickles up like that. So because it's set up like that, it means that everything is optimized for that. It's not optimized for human flourishing, which means that we're being spiritually drained constantly. And this is where it gets really shitty. So how do you rest? When you've had a long day at work and you just need to chill out for a second, you go home and you watch Netflix. Netflix, which you pay a monthly subscription for. You might watch YouTube, which, again, you're either paying premium or using an ad blocker, or you're being advertised to constantly. If the thing you want to watch isn't on Netflix, it might be on Stan or Disney Plus, also things you have to pay for. So there's money being taken from you just for resting, just for getting a break. Again, the entertainment industry, which is probably the main way that people kind of unwind at the moment, is not actually set up to help you rest either. It is set up to get money from you, which is why everything is franchises at the moment. It's all all the movies that Hollywood is pumping money into have been franchises for so long, and it's because they don't actually want to tell stories for that wonderful, life-changing kind of thing. Because we've all had those movies, right? I mean, I hope so. If this has never happened to you, then you're probably pretty young and don't remember what things were like before Disney owned fucking everything. But if you think about the movies that really affected you, that changed the way that you see the world, that changed the way that you see yourself, or just did something, the magic happened. There is a magic element to storytelling, but that's not the goal of the films and movies that get all the money pumped into them and all the advertising and everything, they're only optimized to earn money. So that's not nourishing either. We don't get nourishing work, and we don't get nourishing leisure. But there's a third category, isn't there, which is play. It's work, rest, and play. So work is very easy to commodify, right? Rest took a little longer for the owning class to figure out how to commodify that. Play kind of has, but also not really. So, because if you think about the kinds of ways that leisure time, things where you still need to expend some energy, but it's kind of wasteful in a way. You know, we're talking video games. Like video games are more play, whereas movies, like you're sitting there and you're absorbing, and it's kind of recharging. It's not really rest, I guess. But anyway, play hasn't really been commodified as such, because the only way to commodify playtime is to commodify an experience that has parameters. And experiences with parameters are kind of counter to what induces kind of a play state. Because you pretty much just have to, like, playing, by the way, is basically just things that induce a flow state pretty easily. Like, when you play sport, you're not thinking, you know? Like, I mean, at least when I play sport, this is certainly the case for me. Like, I am thinking, but I'm thinking about the game, and there's a certain language that my mind gets into that's not quite as conscious as it normally is. And I'm kind of merging with my body and being aware of any teammates I might have if it's a team sport. And it's like, yeah, you kind of entered this sort of transcendental thing where you sort of become part of the game in a way. Like, you're not you're part of the game. And it's sort of where your consciousness comes into. And obviously, you know, there's fees and stuff associated with that. You know, if you want to go paintballing with some friends or go-karting, like, that costs money. But the stuff that actually induces a flow state is very difficult to commodify, because it's difficult to induce a flow state in a situation where there's parameters outside of sport. And that's where the power is, I think, because this is where they can't touch us. Because every time you do try and commodify something that is more creative, like making YouTube videos, for example, then it starts becoming work. This is why we have career artists. And you'll notice what happens to a lot of the art of people who do become career artists. You know, 15 years ago we would have talked, or even back in the 90s, you would have talked about selling out, which is basically where you're not creating for joy, you're creating to keep earning money. And and you lose a certain humanity in your work because of that, because it's no longer a pure expression. You know, it's no longer trying to get something out there. It's trying to do something that people will like. And because more people have more access to the means of producing content, it means that now more people are susceptible to selling out, unfortunately. I was really excited when the internet came in, because I believed that, you know, the internet was going to democratize everything, and all these new crazy ideas were going to come out, and we weren't just going to be stuck with, you know, the stock standard sort of corporate lowest common denominator bullshit stuff. But if anything, it killed the indie industry, because it now means that rather than getting indie content, I mean, we still are getting indie content, don't get me wrong, but everyone now is incentivized to make lowest common denominator things, because that's what makes you appeal to a broad enough audience that you can then build up an audience and then turn it into a career. And then, of course, that all has been commodified, like I was saying before, and the whole process sort of loses the thing that it's supposed to do, which is to nourish us spiritually. I'm probably going to do a video soon about why the revolution has to be spiritual. I've been thinking about making that one for a while. I actually helped my friend Catherine. There's a little thing up there. If I can link to other people's videos, I don't know. I helped my friend Catherine edit another video, which is about why the left needs spirituality, which sort of is in the kind of territory of that kind of a thing, so you should definitely go check that out. But yeah, it's all the stuff that we get out of play and out of stories and everything is all the stuff that is really difficult to quantify. And because it's difficult to quantify, you can't commodify it. And so there's kind of bastardized versions of it that get created in order to be able to commodify something kind of similar, I guess. If you've been watching a few of my videos before, you kind of know that what I like to focus on is what we can do. So what can we do? Well, it is to waste time. If someone says you're wasting time, then what they really mean is that you're either resting or playing in a way that can't be easily exploited, or you're burnt out and you're in recovery mode. Like that's pretty much what wasting time means. Waste time, waste resources, do things that that are non-exploitable. Get up early. Getting up early is praxis. There was a week where I got up at 5 o'clock every single morning, and I had a rule that I wasn't allowed to touch my phone until 8 o'clock. Like, I didn't even set my alarm on my phone. I had like an alarm clock that I used to go off at 5. And dragging myself out of bed was really bloody hard, but having those 3 hours where there was no pressure on me, no one could advertise to me, no one could contact me because I was not touching my phone, it was so freeing. I spent that time reading books and writing poetry and just thinking and just sitting there and not doing anything, and it was awesome. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to keep it up because I kept on having things on in the evening, and I didn't want to become totally antisocial. So to keep my friends, I kept seeing them in the evenings and going to like various commitments and stuff, and so it meant that I ended up like not getting to sleep until when I was getting to sleep before, so I was basically losing like 2 hours sleep every night, and that was kind of killing me. But if you're able to do it, if you have a lifestyle that allows it, or even if you don't, just try it for a little while and lose a bunch of sleep, because it's really empowering. It sucks, like the first few minutes after you wake up suck, but once you're up and once you're doing stuff or not doing stuff, it's great. We need to take our time back. We need to take our ability to just waste resources and to do whatever and to just enjoy some shit, you know? And I'm not talking about mindlessly enjoying stuff. I'm talking about that really spiritually nourishing stuff. And when I say spiritually, I don't mean like in a religious kind of a sense necessarily. I just mean in the like, what it means to be a human. If you've seen the video version of the Verbist Manifesto, which I'll link to at the end of this video, it's probably just popped up there. Then yeah, you'll know the kind of spirituality I'm talking about, the kind of across belief systems, just yeah, human essence kind of spirituality. Go check out Catherine's latest video, subscribe, leave comments, give me a like, all that stuff. So yeah, I'll see you, I guess, when I got something else to say. Until then, much love.